Hi there. Today we're going to look at solving inequalities by multiplying and dividing. This is going to be very similar to what we were doing when we were solving equations by multiplying and dividing, but there's one small exception which we're going to talk about. So first off, when multiplying and dividing to solve an inequality, this works exactly the same as for solving an equation, but when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign. The sign has to point the other direction whenever you multiply or divide by a negative number. You have to be very careful with this, and we'll go through some examples to show you what this looks like. So first off, we've got a few problems here with negatives. We've got a few problems here without negatives. Wanted to show you both, just to make sure that everyone's comfortable with these. So first off, this problem right here, we need to get rid of the number that's on the same side as the x. We see this 4 and the x together. We know that those are multiplied. The 4 is multiplied by the x. We need to do the opposite of multiplication. We need to do division. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. Which means when I divide 12 by 4, I'm going to get 3. My x comes down by itself, and since I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, my sign stays pointing in the same direction. So I get x is less than or equal to 3. Over here, you see you've got a negative number, so let's try this one out. So now I'm going to divide by negative 2. Because I want to get rid of that, I want to get the x by itself. These cancel. The x comes down. The 18. 18 needs to be divided by negative 2. And 18 divided by negative 2 will give us negative 9. But since I divided by a negative number, I now need to flip my sign the other direction. So instead of pointing to the left here, it needs to point to the right. And so what we get is negative 9 is bigger than or greater than x. Because now, since I multiplied by a negative number, my sign is pointing in the other direction. So let's go ahead down here and check out some of these problems where we need to cancel out division. Remember, anytime you see x in a fraction like this, you know that that means we have division. We need to cancel the division out. By doing the opposite, we need to cancel it out by multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5. So these 5's cancel. We have x. Now 8 times 5 is going to give us 40. And since I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, my sign stays pointing in the same direction. So I get 40 is bigger than x. 40 is greater than x. My last example here, we see we've got a couple of negatives, so we've got to be extra careful with this. We want to get rid of this negative 4 right here, so we have x by itself. So we have times by negative 4, but we also need to times by negative 4 over here. So these negative 4's will cancel. And negative 6 times negative 4 will be positive 24. The x comes down because that's by itself now. And since I multiplied by a negative number, my sign now needs to switch. It needs to point the other direction. So now, instead of pointing to the right, it's going to point to the left. So what I get here is x is less than or equal to 24.